Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Oh, okay, so, and to check our attendance, Miss Marjorie, please check our attendance. So how many students are already in our meeting? Okay,
We
so
have
I think,
we have 31 in the class.
okay, 31 out of 40. Okay, so still waiting for 9 students. Okay, to start our discussion today. So let me read first the objectives that we for our lesson today. So this is the integration of what we have discussed in the previous discussion, no? And to integrate all the topics that we already discussed, we are going to apply by identifying the steps in hypothesis testing and solve problems involving tests of hypotheses on the population mean. So, but before that, let's begin our day with this game. Are you familiar with this game? The math symbols Jeopardy game. Are you familiar, class? Please type in our chat box if you are familiar in this game. I think no. Okay, no. So the mechanics of this game, first, you are going to choose, okay, you're going to choose the math symbols that you wanted to open, and then each math symbol contains a questions with corresponding amount that can be acquired by giving the correct answer. So, magpapakita ako ng 10 math symbols, and then you can choose one symbols you wanted to open. Are you ready? So let's begin. Who wants to start? Any volunteer? You may use your raise hand button in your screen. Who want to start? Okay, I think nahihiya pa. So I will call someone. David, choose one symbol.
Ano po, sir? Population standard deviation.
Okay, the population standard deviation. So your choosing symbol corresponds 20 pesos. Okay, here's your question. Please read first the question before you give your answer.
What kind of hypothesis is illustrated? The mean score of all grade 11 students is higher than 75. Alternative hypothesis po.
All right, that is correct. Alternative hypothesis. Very good, Miss David. Next. Another who wants to answer. Yes, De Los Reyes.
Less than po, sir.
Less than.
In using t-test for a population mean, we assume that the sample is selected randomly. The given statement is always true.
Always true. That is correct. Very good, Miss De Los Reyes. One again. Yes, Dante. What symbols?
Equal, sir.
Equals. Wow, corresponding with 50 pesos.
Equal po, sir.
You can please read the questions before you give the answer.
Based on the central limit theorem, when the sample is extremely large and the variance is unknown, what is the statistical test to be used? T-test po, sir.
Hmm. The correct answer is C-test. So if the given based on the central limit theorem, we still use C-test even the sample standard deviation is given. Okay, C-test dapat. Okay, so next. Yes, heaven.
Yung X bar po.
Okay, the sample mean.
When we fail to reject the null hypothesis, which of the following statements is true? There is no sufficient evidence suggesting that the claim is false.
Exactly. So your answer is correct, heaven. So that is corresponds to 50 pesos. Okay, another. Yes, Ocampo.
Population mean po, sir.
Population mean. Okay, so this one.
If the researcher wishes to test the claim that the mean of the population is 75, the appropriate null hypothesis is population mean equals 75.
Okay, very good. Your population mean is equal to 75. That is the null hypothesis. Very good, Ocampo. Ay meron pa ba? Yes, still meron pa tayong sample standard deviation. Yes, U
Equals, sir.
equals. Okay,
The
that's
sign
the
of the alternative hypothesis in a left-tailed test is always less than, sir.
less than. That is correct. Okay, next. Meron pa ba? Sample standard deviation. So sample standard deviation and then the population and then the variance, the sample variance. Meron pa tayong dalawang natitira. Yes, Samuel.
Sample standard deviation.
Sample standard deviation. That is sample variance
If
yung
in a
natitira.
sample size is 16 selected from a normal population, sample mean is equal to 56 and the sample standard deviation is 12, what is test is applicable to be used?
So what is your answer, Samuel? When the sample size is less than 30, what test? Samuel?
T-test po.
T-test. Okay, that is correct. T-test. So we still have this one. Okay, this is the sample standard deviation. So ito yung na-click ko, no? Ito yung na-click ko kanina. Okay, so yes, Baldado. I think this is the last math symbols. Baldado. So wala ka ng option, so ito na lang. Okay, what's your question?
If the T computed value is 1.093 and the critical value is 1.699, well, what will be the decision? Reject the null hypothesis.
Reject the null hypothesis. Since your since your computed value is 1.093, that is lower than the critical value. What will be the answer dapat? Okay, you miss our chat box. Yes, De La Peña.
Do not reject the null hypothesis po.
Do not reject the null hypothesis. Once our computed value is less than our critical value, our decision is to do not reject the null hypothesis. Okay, congratulations to all the winners. So you can claim your prize later after this discussion. Okay, let us proceed now. So I want you to read and analyze this problem. So Miss O'Malley, please read the problem.
According to a survey, the average daily usage of social media worldwide of global internet users amounts to 142 minutes per day. Lance conducts his own survey.
Okay, so wait. Okay, continue.
Lance conducts his own survey among his friends to find out if their time spent on social media is significantly higher than the global survey. Do you think his claim is acceptable at 5% level of significance?
Okay, so the data, the right side of the problem is the data from the 10 friends of Lance. So in this case, class, what process or what statistical process or what method we're going to apply to test the claim of Lance that sabi niya, uh, his friends, the spend time is greater than dun sa global internet usage. So what's statistical process? Heaven.
One-tailed test, particularly right-tailed test.
Right tail test? No, I'm referring for the method. So what method we're going to use to test the claim of Lance? Yes, De Los Reyes.
Z-test po, sir.
Z-test, that is actually the statistic test. Referring for the method. E-distribution. Diba? From the previous discussions that we have, that is the first topic. Miss O'Malley.
Formulate the yung ano sir, yung alternative hypothesis tsaka ano sir, null hypothesis.
Okay, so that is under the steps of what? So yung sinasabi niya ay steps na nung method na ginagamit natin. So anong gagamitin natin to test the claim of Lance? Yes, Baldado.
Hypothesis testing.
Exactly, hypothesis testing. So to test the claim of Lance, so we all know no, yung hypothesis testing, this is the aid to make our decision para makahanap tayo o makagawa tayo ng right decision at ma-provide natin na yung result natin tama. So we're going to use hypothesis testing. So using the concept na napag-aralan natin before, so to test the claim of Lance, so ano yung mga napag-aralan natin? So based on the concept na napag-aralan nyo, here are the steps in hypothesis testing to formulate the null alternative hypothesis, decision and conclusion, determine the rejection region, compute the test statistic, level of significance, and find the critical values. So all of these are the steps in hypothesis testing. So itong gagamitin natin to test the claim of Lance, na sabi niya kanina na yung friends spend time nila is higher than dun sa global usage. So gamit tong steps nito, to do that, so we're going to recall first kung ano-ano yung mga steps nito. Okay, let's start with formulating the null and alternative hypothesis. So, paano nga ba tayo nagpo-formulate ng null and alternative hypothesis natin? So, we have steps. Okay, first, identify the parameter in a given problem. So, when you say parameter, that is dealing with the measure of central tendency, like, for example, the average, mean, and of course, consider natin dyan yung standard deviation and variance. So, yan ang sinasabi natin parameter. And then after identifying the parameter, we also identify the claim to be tested. So saan natin makikita yan? It's either nasa null and alternative hypothesis yung claim natin. And after that, so after identifying the claim to be tested, we translate the claim into mathematical symbols and notations. And after that, we are now formulating our null and alternative hypothesis. So in formulating the null and alternative hypothesis, meron tayong mga symbol na ginagamit. As you can see, class, so ito ay recall na lang naman. I know you are familiar with this. So if your alternative hypothesis is unequal or not equal, so your null hypothesis, we're going to use this equal symbol. But if your alternative hypothesis is greater than, so contrary with the greater than, so the symbol we're going to use is less than or equal symbol. And if that is less than, So you can use greater than or equal and equal. But yung sinabi ko noong nakaraan na commonly na ginagamit natin is equal symbol. So we consider less than or equal and greater than or equal because sometimes the claim is, like for example, the word claiming is at most. So at most, we're going to use less than or equal. And if that is at least, greater than or equal. Another step is to find the level of significance and the hypothesis test. So when we're going to identify if that is one-tailed and two-tailed test. So paano nga natin malalaman na one-tailed and two-tailed test? Saan tayo titingin?
Symbol po.
In our what? Symbol, yes, symbol. Particular in what?
Alternative po.
Okay, in alternative hypothesis. So yun yung palatandaan natin. That is the clue, no? So if your alternative hypothesis, it contains greater than or less than, that is a one-tailed test, also known directional. So yung one-tailed test, also known as directional, so kapag yung alternative hypothesis natin, merong gagamit ng greater than and less than a symbol, that is one-tailed test. And if your alternative hypothesis contains not equal symbol, that is a two-tailed test, also known non-directional. So as you can see in this illustration, no, if your alternative hypothesis is not equal, so that is two-tailed test. Yun lang na ang palatandaan dyan. But if your alternative hypothesis is greater than, so right-tailed test yon. So itong dalawa na to, yung right-tailed and left-tailed, consider as one-tailed test. So ini-specific na lang natin na kapag greater than ang symbol, that is a right-tailed test. And if your alternative hypothesis less than, so that is a left-tailed test. After identifying the level of significance and the hypothesis test, we're now computing the test statistics. So when we applied C-test, so paano natin malalaman na C-test yung applicable in the given problem? Sige nga, when we're going to apply C-test, Denzel.
We will gonna apply C-test if the sample size is greater than 30 and the sample standard deviation is given po.
Very good. So when the sample size is greater than 30 or large and the population standard deviation is known or given. So yung population standard deviation natin, kapag yan ay given and the sample size is greater than 30, so the test or the statistic test to be used is C-test. And also, so sabi nga kanina sa review natin, once na sample standard deviation ang given, at the same time, the sample size is greater than 30, still we can apply Z-test because of the central limit theorem. So sabi ni central limit theorem, even your sample size is greater than 100 or basta 100 and above, diba? That is very large sample na. Still, that is normally distributed. C-test pa rin ang gagamitin. How about T-test? When we're going to apply T-test, yes, De Los Reyes.
If the sample size is less than 30 and the population standard deviation is unknown.
All right, very good. So when the sample size is less than 30 and the population standard deviation is unknown, so T-test is applicable for that given problem. So kailangan dito pa lang ma-identify nyo na how you're going to, when you are going to apply C-test and T-test. Kasi pagdating ng quantitative research nyo, pag nag-grade 12 na kayo, so you are taking the practical research too. That is quantitative research, wherein you can apply this statistic test. After that, after computing the test statistics, we are now getting the critical value and the rejection region. So when we're going, how we're going to get the critical value? So using the table. So ang table nito, this is the T table. So paano natin ginagamit ito? So the first column, this is the degrees of freedom. So remember that. So degrees of freedom, so the formula is n minus 1. So babawasan lang natin yung given na sample size ng isa. So that is the degrees of freedom. And at the top of the table, we have one-tailed test and two-tailed test. So kaya nga kanina, napaka-importante na kailangan ma-identify nyo kung yan ay one-tailed test and two-tailed test. Kasi magbabago yung sagot nyo kapag namali kayo ng tingin. Okay? So kapag t-test yung gagamitin natin, so this is the table to find the t-critical value. And for C-critical value, so this is the common level of significance. We have 1%, 2.5%, 5%, and 10%. So always remember na kapag right-tailed test, okay, kapag right-tailed test, your sign is positive. Tatandaan yan ha, kapag right-tailed test, your sign is positive, and kapag left-tailed test, the sign is negative. So kapag two-tailed test naman, both positive and negative is ma-apply natin yan. So dalawa yung sign kasi nga dalawa yung rejection region natin. So based on the illustration, so makikita natin sa illustration, sa left-tailed test natin, so itong tinuturo ko sa inyo, the left-tailed test, your critical region, also known as the rejection region, is at the left side of our acceptance region. So itong shaded na yan, na part nitong graph natin, that is the rejection regions. Once the computed value lies in the rejection regions, so that time na i-reject natin yung null hypothesis natin. And in our right-tailed test, the critical region or the rejection region is at the right side. So ito yon, at the right side of our acceptance regions. And kapag two-tailed test, meron tayong dalawang rejection regions. So we have two rejection regions. So isa sa left side at isa sa right side. So ito yung illustration ng ating graph. And last, so how we're going to decide after na na-determine natin yung rejection region. So how we're going to decide? If the given problem is two-tailed test, the absolute value of the computed value is greater than the absolute value of critical value, so we can decide na i-reject natin yung null hypothesis. Again, once your computed value is greater than sa critical value, we reject the null hypothesis. And then, if the absolute value of the computed value is less than the absolute value of critical value, we do not reject or we fail to reject the null hypothesis. And right-tailed test, same with the two-tailed test, magbabago lang tayo kapag left-tailed test. Kasi yung right-tailed test, same with the two-tailed test yan. No? Kapag greater than yung computed value natin sa critical value, i-reject yung null hypothesis. At kapag less than yung computed value natin sa critical value, so we fail to reject the null hypothesis. So iba yung case sa left-tailed test. Bakit? Sa left-tailed test, if the computed value is less than the critical value, we reject the null hypothesis. And if the computed value is greater than the critical value, we do not reject or we fail to reject the null hypothesis. So the 5 steps in hypothesis testing, gagamitin natin ngayon sa discussion natin. So going back to the problem, no, sa kanina na binasa ni Miss O'Malley, so we can identify now the given problem. So 142 here is what? Anong tawag natin? So 142 is, you may use our, again?
Population.
Yes.
Population mean po.
Okay, so that is population mean. And after that, so paano natin kukunin yung sample mean natin? You may use your calculator. So kung may calculator, please use your calculator to calculate the sample mean. So gamit yung calculator natin, so pwede natin to gamitin. So ang gagawin lang natin, di ba? So isi-set up lang natin. And then click nyo lang yung number 3. And then pipiliin natin yung number 1. Okay, so encode nyo lang everything. So 132 Then mag-equals lang kayo 148, 165, 157, 120, so 144, 136, 160. So pwede nyo akong sabayan class. So kung meron na kayong sagot, you may write your answers sa chat box natin. 185 and 173. So after that, so pipindutin nyo lang itong AC and then shift. Then yung 1, kasi nandito yung stat natin, pipiliin natin yung number 4, the variance. So since ang kukunin natin dito is the sample mean, yung number 2, and the sample standard deviation. So unahin muna natin yung sample mean. So pipiliin natin yung 2. Then equals. So therefore, the sample mean is 152. So yan, si De Los Reyes nakuha yung sample mean. And then balik ulit tayo. Shift. Then 1 ulit, 4, and then ito naman, yung number 4 ang pipiliin nyo, the sample standard deviation equals, so 19.855. So using our calculator, so balikan lang natin, the sample standard deviation is 19.855 and the sample mean is 152 with the sample size of 10. So by using this given data, we are now applying the steps of hypothesis testing. So who would like to formulate our null and alternative hypothesis here? So pwede in notation or pwede in symbol. Sige nga, would like to try to formulate the null and alternative hypothesis? Yes, Heaven.
Our null hypothesis will be the population mean is equals to 142. And our alternative hypothesis is population mean is greater than 142.
Yes, that is correct. Greater than because of the word higher than. So yung claim ni Lance, so sabi ni Lance, he's claiming that so social media is significantly higher than, and higher than, we can use greater than symbol, no? So the word higher than, so greater than ang gagamitin natin. Therefore, yung alternative hypothesis natin, we can use greater than symbol. So babalikan lang natin. So in symbol kasi ang sinabi ni Heaven, so the null hypothesis, the average online usage of his friends is the same as the global usage. And the alternative hypothesis, the average online usage of his friends is higher than the global usage. So what is our claim here? Null or alternative? Ano yung claim natin dito? Ano yung tinitest natin dito na claim ni Lance?
Alternative po.
Okay, alternative hypothesis. Next steps. Okay, identify the level of significance. What is the level of significance? Sige, I'll call someone. Panlilio. Panlilio, what is the level of significance?
The level of significance po is 5% or 0.05.
Okay, 5% or 0.05, correct. And then, so based on the given class, what test statistic is applicable to be used in this problem? Based on the given. Baldo. Yes, what test statistic? Again, Baldo.
T-test po.
T-test. Okay, very good. T-test because the sample size is less than 30 and the given sample standard deviation. Population standard deviation is unknown. So therefore, t-test. So applying the formula of t-test, you may now substitute all the given data sa formula natin by to compute the t-value. Is use your calculator to compute the t-value. So sabayan nyo ako. So i-check natin. Kung meron ng sagot class, please type in our chat box. So 152 minus 142 all over, then fraction bar again. 19.855 over the square root of Anong sagot nyo? 1.593. So that is correct. So 1.593. So the answer, the computed p-value is 1.593. So after computing the test statistic, okay, let us proceed now to find the critical value and the rejection region. So what will be our critical value here? Since ito ay, ano to, one-tailed, two-tailed test.
One-tailed po.
Okay, so one-tailed test, since our alternative hypothesis is greater than, no, yung symbol niya. So tingnan natin sa table ng T table natin, no? So tingnan natin sa T table natin. Okay. So ano yung ano natin dito? Degrees of freedom. Ano yung magiging degrees of freedom natin, class? Okay, 9. So 9, correct. So sige nga, tingnan nyo nga, class. So what will be our critical value? If the degrees of freedom is 9 and the level of significance is 0.05, one-tailed test. So what will be our critical value? Nakikita ba? O, tingnan nyo na lang sa notes nyo. Okay, so okay, nakita na. So that will be, okay, so 1.833. So the critical value is 1.833. So since the critical value, class, yung critical value natin, that is the boundary between the rejection region. So yung shaded part na to is the rejection region and the acceptance region, or we call that as non-rejection region. So ito yung boundary natin. So this is the rejection region, ito yung acceptance region natin. So our computed value is 1.593. So saan natin makikita yan? So nandito siya sa acceptance region. So based sa graph, our computed value lies on the acceptance region. So let us proceed now for our decision. So based dyan sa graph na yan, ano yung magiging decision natin?
We fail to reject the...
Okay, who'd like to answer? David. Yes, David? What will be our decision? Since the computed value is less than...
Since,
Okay. Go ahead.
If, since it is right-tailed test and our computed value fall within our non-rejection region, we fail to reject po the null hypothesis.
Okay, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. Since ang sabi nga dyan, once your computed value is less than sa critical value, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. So since we fail to reject the null hypothesis, therefore, there is no enough evidence to support the claim that the average online usage of his friends is higher than the global usage. So hindi totoo yung claim ni Lance na according sa 10 friends niya, higher yung online data usage nila dun sa global. So therefore, i-accept natin ngayon yung null hypothesis. Ibig sabihin that the average online usage of his friends is the same as the global usage. Next. Another example. I would like to read the problem. Sige, tawag tayo. Yung mga hindi ko pa naririnig, no? De La Peña.
The government claims that 10,000 pesos is the monthly expenses of a Filipino family with 4 members. A sample of 26 families has mid-monthly expenses of 10,900 pesos and a standard deviation of 1,250 pesos. Is there enough evidence to reject the government claim at alpha equals 2.5%?
Okay. So based on the problem, what will be our given? Samuel.
Our population mean is 10,900. Then the sample size is
Again?
26. Then the sample mean is 10,000.
Okay.
Our
Again,
population mean is 10.
10,000.
Our population 10,000. Our sample mean is 10,900. Our standard deviation is 1,250. And the sample size is 26.
Okay, that is correct. So based on the problem, sample mean or the sample mean is 10,900 and the population mean is 10,000 with the sample standard deviation of 1,250 by given the sample size of 26. So what will be our null and alternative hypothesis? In symbol na lang, sige. Sino yung hindi ko pa natatawag? Mortera. You try Mortera? Di Guzman. Sige. Di Guzman. What will be our null alternative hypothesis, Di Guzman? Di Guzman? Nawala na si Di Guzman. Mortera.
The null hypothesis is equal to 10,000.
And then,
900.
how about the alternative hypothesis?
10,000. Alternative is not equal.
Okay, not equal. So meaning this problem is an example of two-tailed test since your alternative hypothesis is not equal. So after formulating the null alternative hypothesis, let us proceed now for the level of significance. So what will be our level of significance? Okay, chat na lang sa chat box. Okay, you may use our chat box. So the level of significance is 2.5% or 0.025. That is correct. So after that, so based on the given, what test statistics to be used in this problem? What statistic test is applicable in this given problem? Anyone? Yes, Ocampo.
T-test po, sir.
T-test. Okay, still T-test ang gagamitin because the sample size is less than 30. So using the formula, again, use your calculator to calculate the t-value. What will be the computed t-value? Plus, use your calculator. Yes, Baldo. Baldo?
3.671 po, sir.
Okay, 3.671. So check natin. So the computed t-value is 3.671. And after that, find the critical value. Find the critical value since the sample size is 26. So the degrees of freedom this should be 25. Okay? So 25 dapat yung degrees of freedom natin. So tingnan nyo dyan sa table nyo. Okay? Tingnan sa table. So yung 25 with the 0.025. That is two-tailed test, no? Okay, so ano yung sagot natin? 2 point. So nakita nyo? So 2.485. Since two-tailed test, so dito tayo titingin ngayon. And then 0.025. 25 yung degrees of freedom. That is 2.485. So, hindi ko rin na-edit dito. So that should be 2.485. Okay, so ito. So sa graph ko nalagay, 2.485 dapat yung critical value natin. Should be 2.485. So this will be the rejection part. Since two-tailed test ito, meron tayong dalawang rejection region. Okay? So based dyan sa graph natin, so what will be our decision? Based on the graph, what will be our decision since the computed value is greater than sa critical value? What will be our decision? De Los Reyes.
Since the computed value is greater than the critical value, we will reject the null hypothesis.
Okay, we will reject the null hypothesis. Therefore, We can conclude that there is enough evidence to reject the claim of the government that 10,000 is the monthly expenses of Filipino family with 4 members. Since ni-reject natin, no, reject the claim of governments kasi sinasabi ng government that the monthly expenses of Filipino with 4 members is 10,000. Can you give me the possible reason based on your family needs? Bakit kaya ah, hindi tama yung claim ng government na yung monthly expenses is 10,000? Can you cite some examples? The possible reasons na kaya ni-reject yon. Ibig sabihin, yung claim ng government na 10,000 yung monthly expenses is not true. Because ano yung reason, class? What are the possible reasons? Based on your family needs. Sa inyo ba, enough ba yung 10,000? So, kailangan, di ba, pag sa conclusion, we need to support our conclusion. Why? Bakit rejected yung claim ng government? What will be the possible reason? Like for example, your food allowance, so magkano na yon? Your bills,
Mataas po yung presyo ng bilihin, pati po yung sa kuryente, pambayad din po
okay,
sa
like for example, isite natin yung kay Ocampo. Sige Ocampo, please give me some possible reason. Your electric bill, magkano yung electric bill for example, yung monthly electric bill nyo, yung average amount?
sa 1,000 plus po, minsan mas mababa pa po sa 1,000 po.
Okay, so kasi ilan lang kayo sa bahay?
3 lang po, sir.
Okay, 3. Kasi nakadepende rin sa dami ng appliances. So like for example, class, meron kayong refrigerator, TV, at aircon o kaya ilang electric fan meron kayo. So minsan nagbibilya ng 2,000 to 3,000 electric bill pa lang. And then nagre-rent pa kayo, no? Nagre-rent pa kayo. So let's say yung monthly rental niyo is 5,000 a month. 5,000 plus 3,000, 8,000 na, meron pa kayong water bill, meron pa kayong internet, meron pa kayong binabayaran. How about your food allowance every day? So, doon pa lang we can support na rejected yung claim ng government na 10,000 yung monthly expenses ng Filipino people with 4 members. O Filipino family with 4 members. Doon pa lang, 'di ba? Based on your family needs, we can prove that the government claim is not true. So ganun dapat. Okay, naintindihan? I think the next example we can skip now. We can skip the next example. We can proceed now for your presentation since it's already 1:51. We can proceed now for your presentation. We can skip this. Okay, so di ba last week I assigned you a problem, Then using the same problem, you can apply the steps of hypothesis testing. You can present using that given problem by applying the steps in hypothesis testing. Nasa inyo kung how you're going to present. So your score, okay, you will be graded based on the criteria. So the content is 50%, delivery 40%, and creativity 10%. I think, sige, so sino ang, I'll give you 3 minutes. 3 minutes to prepare. Okay? 3 minutes to prepare. And after 3 minutes, sige, magpe-present na kayo. Group 1, be ready. Group of Heaven.
Yes po, sir.
Okay, you're the first one to present. Okay, mag-stop sharing ako, then you can share your presentation, no? Sige. If you want to on your camera, mas okay, no? Kung gusto niyo mag-on ng camera while you are presenting your presentation. Heaven, pwede na kayong mag-share ng screen.
Sige po, sir. Okay na po, sir.
Yes, yes. Nakikita na namin. Start na ba kayo?
Opo, sir. Kasi nag-ano na po kami.
Okay, so
Po kami. Sige po.
okay, go ahead. Group 1, you can present your presentation based on the problem assigned to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are Group 1 and we will present our presentation. Problem. Coronavirus disease or COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new strain of coronavirus. The World Health Organization or WHO claims that the incubation period of the virus in the infected person has a mean of 5.1 days. Doctors in the Philippines conducted the research and they found out that the incubation period of the virus in human body is 6.03 days with a standard deviation of 3.32. Samples were 46 COVID patients. Is there enough evidence to conclude that the incubation period of the virus is 5.1 days as stated, and alpha equals to 0.01? Determine the test statistic to be used and find its computed value. De la Peña. Tapos yan. Ito lang po naman si De La Peña po.
Okay, waiting for the lapel.
In solving the problem, we will use the given data. The first symbol is for population mean and is equals to 9.1. The second symbol is for sample mean and is equals to 6.03. The third symbol is for sample standard deviation and is equals to 3.32. The fourth symbol is for sample size and is equals to 46. In formulating null and alternative hypothesis, we must determine the parameter, and our parameter is incubation period of the virus in the infected person as a mean of 5.1 days, in which is also our claim. We must, in translating into symbol, we will have population mean is equals to 5.1, since our parameter contains equal sign, then our null hypothesis will be population means is equals to 5.1. Since there are no phrase in the problem that is less than or greater than, then our alternative hypothesis will be population mean is not equals to 5.1.
The characteristics that have mark check are sample size is greater than or equal to 30, and sample standard deviation is not. According to central limit theory, if sample size is greater than or equal to 30, but population standard deviation is unknown, then test statistic will be z-test. Since our level of significance is alpha equals to 0.01, and our alternative hypothesis contains not equal, which signs which reflects that our rejection region will be two-tailed. Then our critical values will be z is equals to positive and negative 2.575 based from our table of z critical values. Our graph will look like this, where, where there are two rejection regions, one from right side and one from left side, which comprise the two temples. At the middle is the non-rejection region, is our computed value falls under this region. We will not reject the null hypothesis and not support the alternative hypothesis.
With our given data, test statistic, which is z-test, we are now able to get the z-computed value, where we will observe it if we will gonna fall within the rejection or non-rejection region. Consequently, telling if we will reject or not reject the null hypothesis. The formula of z-test is equals to quantity sample mean minus population mean divided by the quantity population standard deviation over the square root of sample size. Since the population standard deviation is unknown, but because of central limit theorem, we can use a sample standard deviation as approximate. So computing the test statistic, 6.03 minus 5.1 divided by 3.32 over the square root of 46, our z computed value will be 1.900.
Plotting the graph with our z critical values, which is positive, negative 2.575, and z computed value, which is equals to 1.900, it will look like this. The red dot will be our z computed value, and the shaded part will be our z critical values, where it illustrates the range of rejection region. Because our z computed value does not fall under the rejection region and is located instead in non-rejection region, our decision is, since it is a two-tailed test and the absolute z computed value is less than absolute z critical value, then we will not reject the null hypothesis and not support the alternative hypothesis. Conclusion. Therefore, we can conclude that there is enough evidence to conclude the incubation period of the virus is 5.1 days, and this marks the end of our presentation.
Very good, Group 1. Talagang pinaghandaan yung presentation. And then what amazed dun sa presentation nyo, especially dun sa to identify the statistic test, you presented the reason what test statistics will be used on that problem. No? Pinakita, may checklist pa kayo. Very good, Group 1. So congratulations. Let us now proceed for Group 2 presentation. Miss David, ready na ba yung Group 2?
Itanong po, sir.
Yes. Go ahead, David. I think medyo, yan.
Good day to everyone. We're Group 2 and we're here to perform our presentation regarding the assigned problem to us. The problem is, nowadays, people tend to buy products online. The shipping department manager claims that the average order shipped by their company is 1.89 kilograms. The general manager wants to verify if his claim is true, so he randomly selects 25 samples of orders. What can the general manager conclude at 0.01 level of significance if the sample has a mean weight of 2.07 kilograms with a standard deviation of 0.72 kilograms?
Given the population mean is 1.89 kilograms, the sample mean is 2.07 kilograms, the sample standard deviation 0.72 kilogram, and the sample size is 25. The parameter is the shipping department manager claims that the average by their company is 1.89. So we conclude that the null hypothesis mean is equal to 1.89 and the alternative hypothesis mean is not equal to 1.89.
The given significance level is 0.01 and it's considered as t-test because the sample size is less than 30. So to get the critical value, we need to identify the degrees of freedom, and the degrees of freedom is equals to 24, and it's two-tailed test because we classify that the alternative hypothesis is not equal. Since the level of significance is equals to 0.01, then the degrees of freedom is equals to 24. So we conclude that the critical value is 2.797 based on the t-table. So here is the illustration of hypothesis test graph. As we can see,
I
we
think,
have two rejection
excuse
region.
me, Aguilar. I think yung presentation late. Ayan, yan. Nakikita na namin. Go ahead, Aguilar.
Since the level of significance is equals to 0.01, then the degrees of freedom is equals to 24. So we conclude that the critical value is equals to 2.797 based on the t-table. So here is the illustration of hypothesis test graph. As we can see, we have two rejection region. Since it is two-tailed test, we will determine if we will reject or not the null hypothesis.
The given is the sample mean of 2.07, the population mean of 1.89, the sample size of 25, and the sample standard deviation of 0.72. The test statistic that will be used is the t-test because the sample size is less than 30 and the population standard deviation is unknown. The formula for the t-test is t equals to the sample mean minus the population mean over the sample standard deviation over the square root of the sample size. We will convert the symbols to the given to 2.07 minus 1.89 and 0.72 over the square root of 25 is equals to 1.25.
In summary, our critical value is equals to 2.797, while our computed value is 1.25. As we analyze the hypothesis test graph, here we can see that the blue represent our critical value, while on the other hand, the red one shows our computed value. We observe that in the right side, the computed value is less than the critical value, while on the left side, it is greater than. That's why our computed value fall within our non-rejection region. Hence, we come up with a decision since it is two-tailed test and the absolute p-value did not lie on the rejection region of the critical p-value at level of significance 0.01. Therefore, we failed to reject the null hypothesis. Our conclusion will be the general manager can conclude that there is not enough evidence to reject his claim that the average ordered ship by their company is 1.89 kilograms. Hence, we will verify that his claim is true and we will support it. And that's
Okay.
our presentation. Thank you po.
Okay, congratulations, Group 2. Very good presentation. So, as you can see, class, all the members have their own assigned task. No, meron silang assigned task. Very good, Group 2, na lahat ay nag-participate. I think Group 3, 4, and 5, we will continue your presentation and the next meeting kasi we only have, it's already 2:09. So, wag kayong mag-alala, no? We can continue your presentation. I know naghanda kayo for your presentation. Okay. So, for group 1 and group 2, dyan makikita ko na you are now really understood this hypothesis testings. So, before you take the quantitative research, you are now knowledgeable in taking that, in using test statistics or how we're going to deal with the quantitative research. No, pagdating nyo ng grade 12, ready na kayo, you know how, paano nyo laruin yung quantitative research, anong statistics test ang gagamitin, ang aaralin nyo na lang yung variables. Okay? Very good. Group 1 and 2. And Group 3, 4, and 5, we continue your group presentation on the next meeting. Okay, let us proceed now for a short quiz. Okay, let us proceed now for a short quiz. So, pwede nyo isulat dyan kahit sa ang anong merong papel kayo dyan. So, I give you 5. Okay, so, present ko lang. Present lang ulit ako. Okay. Nakikita na ang screen ko, class?
Opo, sir.
Okay, so write the letter only. So yes po. Okay, I'll give you 5 questions now. 5 questions lang to. So mabilis lang na mabilis lang. So dito sa assessment natin, using your module. So the first 5 questions. So write the letter only. For number 1, the null hypothesis is rejected. What does this mean? Okay, you can read the answer. If you are done, let us proceed for question number 2. Or you may type your answer in our chat box. Okay? I-type niyo yung natin. I-type niyo yung sagot niyo sa chat box natin. Okay, for number 2, if the T computed value is 2.430 and the critical value is 2.011, what will be the decision? And for number 3, what is the third step in the hypothesis testing procedure? Number 4, in a left-tailed test, what will you do if the critical value is less than the computed value? And for number 5, the T computed value is 1.875 and the critical value is 2.080. What conclusion can we do? Okay, please you may use our chat box to write your answer. So tingnan natin who got 5. Okay na po ba, class? Okay, let's check your quiz. Check natin. So you write your answer in our chat box. Tingnan natin. Okay. So, so here is the answer. For number 1, letter C, 2, letter A, number 3, D, 4, and 5 is B. I think, yes, some of you, 4 and 5, no? You get confused in number 4 and 5. So, who get perfect? Who get 5? Who get 5? Meron ba nakakuha ng 5? Perfect score. Okay, Gonzales. How about 4? Sino yung mga nakakuha ng 4? Very good. So, meron bang nakakuha ng 2? 1 and 2? Meron bang nakakuha? Be honest, class. So, meron bang nakakuha ng 1 and 2? Meron? Okay, so wala naman nagtataas ng kamay. So we can conclude that you really understand the topic today. So for that, okay, meron nakuha ng 2, si Robert and Cervantes. So you can read again the module or the examples that I'll give you in your Google Classroom para ma-practice pa kayo. So with that, class, okay, for your assignment, please answer your task in Google Classroom, and thank you, everyone. Okay, thank you for joining this afternoon. Okay, so I hope you really understood what we discussed today.
Thank you, sir.
Wait lang ha,
Thank you
muna
po.
tayo umalis. I think,
Congratulations, Sir Rogon.
okay. Tingnan
And
natin.
thank you so much. And sa ating mga estudyante, anong ginamit ng sir? STEM to?
STEM wisdom, sir. Ay, ma'am, STEM wisdom.
Mga anak, syempre, unang-una, congratulations din sa inyo, no? Because demonstration teaching or the transfer of knowledge per se, no, is a two-way, no? Kahit gaano kagaling ang teacher, kung kayo mismo sa sarili nyo ay ayaw nyong matuto, so nawawala ng saysay yung kagalingan ni teacher. Pero kayo ngayon, no, ngayong hapon nakita ko, magaling si teacher at magaling din kayo. Bakit? Because you want to learn, no? For that, congratulations, no, and God bless. Okay. Gusto ko lang sabihin sa inyo, no, na unang-una, napakalapit na ng ating end of the school year, no? By July 10, tapos na yan. So, anong ibig sabihin? Wala na tayong isang buwan, mga anak, no? Kung aalisin pa natin yung Saturday and Sunday, so konting panahon na lang. What I want you to do is, syempre number 1, no? Find time na talaga para sa inyong mga requirements. Pasa niya na kila ma'am, kila sir, no? Hindi lang kay Sir Rogon. Lahat ng mga dapat yung ipasa nyo na. Bigyang pansin nyo na, no? Pagtuunan nyo na yung inyong mga pag-aaral. At napakadali na lang. Next school year, or kung ma-approve yung September, no? So, ibang milestone na ng buhay nyo ang inyong sasapitin. At grade 11 to, sir?
Yes, ma'am, grade 11.
Grade 11, oo, no? Ikinalulungkot man namin sabihin sa inyo kasi nagpalabas ang DepEd, hindi lang naman yan sa atin, na ang bibigyan lang natin ngayon ng award ay yung grade, yung kinder, syempre, yung grade 6, grade 10, at saka grade 12, no, para sa academic award ninyo. Pero syempre, no, ang pamunuan natin ay, of course, we have to follow the order from DepEd, no, na wala. Pero kami, alam ko, sa puso ng ating punong guro ni Mr. Mr. Velasquez ay kahit papano ay sasabihan, sige. Oo. Kahit papaano ay gusto rin naman namin kayong ma-recognize kahit sa classroom in your with your advisor. Yan iniisipan namin maigi kasi syempre as a good soldier, hindi naman pwede na hindi kami susunod sa utos na galing sa kataas-taasan. Pero syempre hindi rin naman pwede na hindi namin ma-recognize lalo na kayo STEM kung ano yung pinaghirapan nyo. So siguro sa bahagi ng senior high school with your teachers, no? Ay yun na nga, makikipag-bargain tayo kay Sir Velasquez na kahit papano in your classroom ay ma-recognize naman kayo, no? Kung magkakaroon tayo ng recognition na panglahatan ay hindi pa natin alam yon, Oo. Yun. So please try your best, no? Mag-aral maigi, magligpit kayo. Wait lang mga anak ay postcon lang po sir. Ay, opo. Tapusin ko lang po yung postcon, sir. Opo. Ay, ito na lang po ay, pati po yung mga teacher. Ayun po. Sir, nag-orientation yung LAMP. Parang wala, nag-check po kasi ng attendance. Parang hindi ko naka-attend yung, di ba po mayroon tayong 3 student na under PLE? Parang hindi ko naka-attend. Opo. Pero kung sino po ba in charge doon para sasabihan na lang po namin. Walang